connections, all right, so that people on the outside know what's going on in here, and we know what's going on out there, because we can't study without people outside helping us. And there's no way for anyone on the outside to know what's happening in here, right, if they're not connected to us. You gonna trust the PIC to tell you what's going on? They're not. Right? So if you want to know what's happening inside of here, what things are like on the ground, you have to be connected to people inside. Now, I always say, if you are part of this movement and you're not connected to somebody inside, you are wrong. You're wrong. I don't know where you're getting information from. So we have to be connected so that on both sides we know what's going on.
The solidarity means to me that we're working with folks inside and those outside that are affected by the prison industrial complex and the communities. It means that we're working alongside them and listening to their needs and following what direction they want us to move in terms of fighting the prison industrial complex and meeting their needs. So solidarity is very much an action. In my mind, it's an action statement, it's an action word, more than just reposts or just a hashtag or anything.
Solidarity to me is just really important, especially with the folks on the inside, because I think at least from some of the conversations and some of the correspondence that I have, they really know what's going on.
It's mutual, and there's coming together. There's mutual sharing, and I think that's really important in terms of how I think of the mail program also.
From my correspondence with folks, whether through the phone program and the mail program, is I really feel like the information that they give to me really helps me like truly understand how the PIC is all encompassing, how it really destroys people's lives, and it's not meant to keep us safe.
Solidarity in our prisoner mail program is integral to the program itself because it really comes from a long legacy of where CR gets its movement from. We are very much rooted in the prisoner movement out of the 60s and 70s. That was in big part because of the American government's targeting of Black Panthers and other radicals during that time and throwing them in prison, and then their organizing and their analysis of the prison system being reported back outside. That's where our history comes from, is that communication from inside and outside to further understand the role of the prison industrial complex in the form of colonialism, capitalism, and how it upholds those systems. And so that's why we continue to have that conversation inside and outside to know how better to fight the prison industrial complex.
Prisoners, we learn about action that they're organizing inside, that a lot of times, there's people in those institutions working for those institutions that their whole job is to make it hard for us to hear about those actions and to hear about, that political work that's being done inside. So having those relationships ourselves and, politicizing those relationships is really important as far as making sure that their work gets outside of those walls, and that we can do what we can, with our publication and with the organization to kind of uplift and support those movements and try and integrate them into the work that we're doing as much as we can.
And prisoner solidarity has been very important to our movement making, to fighting in coalition spaces, through our fight against Delano 2, to when we were helping support the prisoner hunger strikes in California, to when we were part of the No New SF Jail Coalition in San Francisco, and talking with folks inside A50 Bryant to relay the conditions that were happening inside that jail, to now where we're fighting ICE out in New Jersey, and also where we're fighting a statewide fight against prisons in California. And so we've been talking with people inside and outside through the use of the Abolitionist newspaper, which has been a project also of critical resistance along with the mail program. And those are ways that we continue that communication, that really important historical communication that we have with people inside, and to keep them informed of the fight, and also to very much get an idea of where we need to go next.
This past year, CR Oakland and CR LA joined CURB's statewide campaign known as the Closed California Prisons Coalition, and that coalition really came together with the goal being to close 10 California state prisons by 2025, knowing that there is an extremely violent history of prisons across the country and across the world, but also specifically in California with the historic prison expansion project, and knowing that in our society of the PIC, if you build these prisons, they will fill these prisons with Black, brown, and low-income community members. And so this project is about closing these prisons as one step of chipping away at the prison industrial complex. We also have specifically an in-reach working group that is dedicated to corresponding with incarcerated community members across all California state prisons, including such prisons as DVI and CCC, which are the two prisons that Governor Newsom named for closure. CR is really holding an incredible role within this in terms of giving capacity to that in-reach program by corresponding with folks who are incarcerated. This level of like inside-outside organizing work is critical to all of our campaign work, because we know that folks who are most impacted by the PIC, by these systems that we're fighting to dismantle, are going to be the folks who know most intimately how to deconstruct these systems. They know most intimately the violences and intricacies of these systems, and they're most positioned to be able to fight the systems. And so the work of the MAIL program is really giving strategies across every working group that we have. It's informing folks by telling us when we are talking to folks incarcerated at CCC and they're telling us about retaliation that they're experiencing by COs at their prison after their prison was named for closure, other demands that we need to add to our coalition's fight, and it reminds us that our commitment isn't just to closing these buildings, but to the folks who are incarcerated and caged within these buildings, and not just like making a better prison or a good prison, because there is no good prison, but really how can we shut down this prison and also push collectively with folks who are incarcerated in a demand for their collective liberation, in a demand to free them all. When we're talking to folks inside and they're saying that they're experiencing retaliation from the COs, they're not saying stop calling for prisons to close. Nah, their demand is close that prison faster, and demand that COs stop retaliating against folks in these communities, in these prison towns who are incarcerated in these prisons that are named for closure. There are so many folks who we're in correspondence with, who are incarcerated, who we just need more capacity to be able to help build these relationships and to be able to provide like these consistent resources that we're providing right now. So if you want to tap in and get involved, I would say absolutely join the MAIL program, and also read the report too that CURB put out for the People's Plan for Prison Closure report, because it has a lot of great analysis and breakdown about why it's important for prison closure specifically. And again, that feedback, that criteria is coming directly from folks who are currently incarcerated and their loved ones too.
You got something to say about no jails?
No jail.
Okay, thank you. No jail.